The Beef and Barnzy Show, brought to you by Bowlersmart.com, trusted by bowlers around the world since 2004. By Lightning Strikes Bowl, home of Bowlers Mart Pro Shop. By Platinum Ford, drive the difference. By Fire Lake Bowling Center, 24 state-of-the-art lanes. By True Grit Coatings, drive on our passion. By Roll to Grip, king of them all. By 900 Global, striking worldwide.
Good afternoon and welcome to this special edition of the Beef and Barnzy Show on a Monday. As Nico was so nice to point out yesterday, Grandpa Barnes bowling the PBA 50 Tour on Tuesday wasn't going to work. So, Nico, you are now on notice.
You're on the list.
You started this, so. But yes, I am Barnzy, and as usual, I'm joined by the inimitable Stuart Williams.
What's going on, fellas? Nice to see you all. Some of our regulars are here. Adam says, hope you're not injured after the Players' Championship. I think he's talking about you 116. Well played, Adam. Well played.
Yeah.
Hello, can't wait for the show. Do you think the Revenant is a good one to have, or are there better options available for balls that level? It's a piece that me and Chris both kind of like.
Yeah, I think it's something that can be very useful. So it's certainly in the small group, the small grouping of balls that are good at that price point for sure, and for what you're using them on.
Yeah, I think it's a little more usable these days than the High Road Pearls.
Yeah,
for me, the High Road Pearls.
Fit.
Yvonne says hashtag 116.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I got nothing for you. If you're waiting for me to get my feels about it, I can honestly say I'm glad it wasn't 27-year-old on ESPN because it probably would have hit a little differently. But
yeah.
For about 3 times, I was pretty irritated at the happenings, and after that, it just got to be, kind of funny. You just not as funny as it can be, but literally nothing I did was right.
Technically, you really bowled at least 124.
Yeah, I did throw it. I threw a fill shot two-handed that went in the gutter, so I probably would have gotten at least the 3-6-10 for the 5th time on that right lane. So.
Congrats to Hope Gramley for winning Rookie of the Year. Yeah, in pretty dominating fashion as well. She was the only rookie to make the top 24. So congrats to her. I don't think it was a particular shock to most people that
no, she's been good for a while. So that was I would say she's a preseason favorite probably to win that award.
Yeah. And obviously
easier. But
after their first time back, there's been a few years where it's been like super like competitive. Like I think I'm thinking maybe the year Julia and Stephanie Zavala. Like there's been a few years where people have won, but a solid year from Hope for sure. Alan says nice to hear from you guys. Yeah, nice to be heard. Billy, congratulations. Chris Barnes, you're on a roll, and good afternoon, Stu. Yeah.
Yeah, there she is.
Kirk says good morning. What would you recommend between my Zen and a Hustle Link? Almost everything. Revenant, IQ Ruby, to name a couple.
Exponent.
Absolute, almost. Sorry, what did you say, Chris?
Exponent, possibly in there. Yeah.
Going to give a shout out to myself. I bowled 807 in the Texas State doubles using the Exponent. So I like it as a option when the phase 2 is too strong. I don't necessarily view it as the ball to change to once the phase 2 doesn't work, which is a way a few people are describing it. I think that's because they don't really understand the way balls transition into one another when they say that. In my opinion, like I think it makes a kind of a similar motion to the phase 2. It's just a little less and a little cleaner. So that wouldn't be necessarily the ball that I would change to when I was using a phase 2. I'd want a quicker ball when the phase 2 was too strong. You know what I mean?
Right.
So, but I think it's a really good option to use instead of a phase 2.
Mm-hmm.
You know, if the phase 2 is a little too strong or you feel like you're having to overthrow it a little.
Patrick Dombrowski.
Man, how times have changed. People are congratulating Chris for a 5th place.
Yeah, I don't know if that one felt like a big win or not. I did not bowl fantastic.
I was about to say, it was fairly impressive. I have to say, I spoke to Linda about this. It never ceases to amaze me how you can bowl some of these events and it feels like you're not in like great, you know, not bowling that well physically, not feeling that comfortable, and then still be in the top 5. Like, and there's some pretty good bowlers that are bowling on the senior tour. It's not like, oh, everybody who's a good bowler is doing that every week. Like Ewan Hess and Troy Lint seem to be doing it pretty much every week. But there's some other people who are, you know, good players who come in and they just don't have the consistency that you guys have. It's pretty impressive.
JJ missed a cut, which was a surprise this week. He could never quite figure out how to strike. Obviously, he has a million ways to get the pocket, but it was a funny place to strike in for sure. Speaking of, and our sponsor right there, his big tournament is this Saturday. So 5,000 added. So I believe it starts around noon this upcoming Saturday. I will be there. Along with, I imagine, a fair amount of my elder statesmen. So
I think this is a really excellent question from somebody who had a good week up there. Brian finished in the top 20, I believe, at the tournament. He says, what was so different when you transitioned to Bill Moore's place?
You know, and it's not like it was crazy different because we had similar surfaces, newer, but it was both Gen 2 Pro Ambilane. We did switch to a Brunswick machine and Brunswick oil, which that probably played the biggest difference. Our little pre-practice thing, they felt pretty easy. They felt like Mark Roth gets used for a lot of exhibition type events. Now they soften them up on occasion, but for like the royal family thing, a lot of times the team thing is held on that. And so being firmer and straighter plays pretty well on that pattern a lot. And they felt like they're a lot like that in the first practice. And then after the second one, they got a little tighter to the right. Billy didn't, you know, Pete's not going to play the right. Billy played the track, but didn't really try and bust up the right very much. And then Tom played left. And so we didn't do a fantastic job of making him easier, but they weren't really, I would have still swore 230 was the scoring pace.
And like we spoke about, it kind of was after you and Hess bowled your first match. It was just that first match.
Well, Hess shot 2-0 again the second match too, and it wasn't threatening to be a lot more than that. Billy just bowled a great game, and then he shot 258, basically just throwing it at the 3-pin. He threw it hard and kept it in front of him and really controlled it and bowled a really good game. And then Pete went left and did what he does. And he had a 5-bagger and was able to break up all the stuff in between. And that was enough as Troy Lint kind of ran out of he just ran out of strikes. He went 270, 260, and then the carry down from the urethane got him. And he started leaving a couple of half sevens. And he tried to make one strike and he split and just couldn't get back over the hump.
Interesting for Troy, because I think that's one of the first shows he's made where he's actually had to bowl more than one game. So.
Yeah, he's led a lot. They weren't you know, they were decent on the left, but they weren't super easy. You had a lot more bouncing back and forth between reactive and urethane for all the players, including him. And then you know, they had to go about it from day to day and block to block a little different.
All right, yeah, I do have to give. We haven't used this one for a while, but he helped me this morning with my friend. So I just have to, we're just going to run. This is my payment. Thanks, Bakes.
Mark Baker here. Are you struggling with your game? Do you need another set of eyes? Is there that one thing in your game you just can't fix? Please let me help you. Go to markbakerbowling.com, click on virtual lessons, and follow the 3 easy steps. Remember, you can live anywhere in the world, and with virtual lessons, I can help you. Look forward to seeing your videos. Thank you.
So this morning I went down. One of Maria's friends is staying in town, Juliana, and like she bowls in college, and we were practicing. I was watching a bowl, and like every shot was coming off it. Like it looks like her swing's nice, everything's good, and every shot was just coming off her hand going dead right. And I'm like trying to figure it out, and I'm like, well, maybe you could try this, or you could try this, or well, eventually, like we made a change with her feet, and we got her going faster, and she could go a little straighter, and it was pretty good. But I'd sent a couple of videos to Baker in between, and Baker texts me and he says, "I've seen the video while driving. I'll call you when I get there. I can tell you exactly what it is." And I'm like, okay. I'm just like maniac. So anyway, he just says, yeah. If you watch the video from behind, and he starts talking about her crossover steps or whatever, he goes, yeah, her third step, she's crossing over. And if she stops doing that, she'll stop throwing it to the right. And I'm just like, this mother. Like, what? So it made perfect sense once he broke it down. Now it closed her body up at the end because she had nowhere for a pivot step and everything. But I'm like watching this, and I'm just like, it looks fine. Her swing doesn't really look out of line, but her ball goes like that way every time. And then Mark says, just tell her to not do this, and we'll try. So she, like I say, by the time Mark got back to us, because I think the videos didn't send straight away, we got her going a little faster, and that was good. But we rounded back to her like slowing down again, and then it was just like, it was wild. Like, we got her to try that with her footwork, and obviously she's not going to go from doing the crossover steps every time to doing it right every time, but she could definitely feel it. You know what I mean? It's just amazing that he just like watches one video, like, oh, I'm sat in traffic. Oh yeah, that's what she's doing wrong. I'll call you. Just crazy. So thanks, Mark. Yes, that was one of our old school ads when our sponsors would send videos in. Everywhere in the world, anywhere in the world. We haven't had it on for a while. It was iconic for a while.
It was an Ovaltine. It was our Ovaltine commercial for a minute.
Yes, this is one of the Cool Wick Elite collection, I think it's called. It's up on the website. It doesn't have quite as many logos on as mine does because I look like a NASCAR jersey. Yeah, if you use Beef Stew 10 or Barnzy 10, you can get 10% off. So shout out to Cool Wick. Mark is the best in the business. Yeah, it's not so much that. It's just the fact that he can just so quickly diagnose something for you to try. It's kind of wild.
Yeah. J2, you said a while back I changed my pitches because I'm old. Yeah, lack of flexibility. Well, I'm old now. Can you repeat what you went to? I went from a 16th forward my thumb to a quarter reverse. I went from a quarter reverse away in my fingers to a half away in my fingers, and then I added an eighth because of all the extra pitch away. So, but yeah, that seems to have worked out pretty well. I don't feel I clear the thumb much better than I did. It's become a non-issue again, which is exactly what I want out of my pitches. Is no issues, and that's pretty much it. That's about it. So. Jake, shout out to CV for making you drill the exponent. Once again, I boiled on 36 feet practice session this morning. Plenty of volume because it's a 3-squad tournament with no re-oil. And the exponent looks like it's going to get some play again this week. So.
Somebody asked me about the scores on the women's tour. It was almost certainly Nico.
It was Nico.
because he cares
Here you
the
go.
most.
I got it for you.
Why are the scores so high? I think the scores are so high because the carry is amazing. Like the pins are flying everywhere, and I think that I just think that like that's the main deal. So the ladies don't have to worry so much about making their ball get around the corner as much to go through the pins, because the pins are, they're moving. And I think that that's where you've got to be really careful with sometimes with these patterns, because they could have bowled these patterns somewhere else. And if it's a little harder to get it to go through the pins, then you get a little bit more tension in your arm and you're trying to make it do stuff. And then you don't strike as much. But the ladies are really good at repeating. And when they don't necessarily have to worry very much about the ball going through the ball going through the pins, it's game on. And like I say, the ladies have been bowling great. This morning, it seems like the thing that's slowing them down was the round robin got to the block where everybody moves ends every game. And going between the two ends is a little more challenging, I think, is generally the general consensus. Shout out to Maria. She was in like 17th with 2 games to go last night. And with 2 games to go this morning, she was in first.
Whoa.
So she got up to second. Dasha Kovalova is in the lead going into the last block. So those 5 have separated themselves a little bit. But like I say, I think that the majority of the reason why the scores have been higher is because the ladies can concentrate on just making a good shot, because when it hits the pins, as long as it's pretty close, the carry is just great.
Yeah. Ryan says, "What's up, guys? It seems like right now I'm using a Zen Master and I love it. I want an exponent. Do you think the 2 balls are too similar?" No, I do not. I think those are very complementary balls. The Zen Master is much smoother, stronger cover. Exponents longer and more shape from that standpoint. And Daniel, appreciate it. You see you in here a lot. Like the ball videos, showdown was cool. Do you think that your dynamic will be okay if oil carries down? I think it will be fine with reactive carry down. Not sure yet about urethane.
I kind of talk about that a little bit in the video. I think that the exponent is a little more versatile. I think that the Tour Dynamics is going to be kind of like a home run type of ball. Like when it's right, there's going to be almost nothing like it, and you're going to have a really big advantage using it. No, I personally don't think that that's a great mix. I think that with how much the original Rubicon flares in comparison to this new Tour Dynamics, I don't think they match up that close to each other, to be honest. Yeah, I also think the cover on the Tour Dynamics is a little earlier than the Rubicon, from my take on it. Somebody asked if I could, if we could basically verbalize the difference between, oh, there it is. Can you verbalize the difference between the exponent and the Tour Dynamics? I did an entire video on this if you want to kind of go back. But to me, the exponent is kind of a replacement for the IQ Tour, which is kind of ironic because everybody's talking about the Tour Dynamics being an asymmetrical IQ Tour. And for me, it's not even close to being an asymmetrical IQ Tour. I think it's earlier than the IQ Tour. I think it's way smoother than the IQ Tour. I think it covers less boards than the IQ Tour. Like, to me, the exponent is just an IQ Tour that flares more. So it's more versatile for me. I don't know about what you've seen from it, Chris, but that's kind of how I see the...
Yeah, the dynamics are smoother, and it's way more about control on medium to medium dry conditions. And the exponent has been a really versatile piece that fits in the middle. Again, like once we had carry down today in the practice session, no problem with the exponent. Dynamics a little earlier and a little lazier through that. The exponent's been the surprise of the summer for sure for me. I thought it would be okay, but it's been way better than okay. And again, where so many surfaces have more friction in them, and that it's become really the more go-to ball than even say a phase 2 for me where getting the ball through the front has been difficult on some of these weeks, and that's been my automatic ball down to is that exponent. So
yeah, I've got a little bit of a different layout. I've got, if you're doing a dual angle, I've got 80 by 5 by 15. And if we're doing the Storm VLS, it's like, I mean, call me a liar, but it's basically a 5 by 6 by 1.5, maybe something like that. So it's a little odd, and it seems to be a good option. Sean Ryan went with the layout. He said, let's try this. It's a bit different ball. Let's go with a bit different layout. And it definitely gives me a shape that I didn't have. It's not necessarily a shape I'm going to use every single block, but I've used it on some sport patterns, especially ones where the back ends were like a little chirpy, shall we say. And I've used it on the house shot also on the first game when I wanted to stay closer to the friction. I'm not sure it's the ball that I want to move left with. But for something that I want to keep in front of me and not have to throw myself after it, yeah.
It's been way more for me to keep it in a zone.
Yeah.
Kind of thing. We had one really tight lane last week. I ended up using it on that lane to keep it kind of online at the 3-pin from 16-17, which is deeper than I would have thought it'd be good. It was fine, rolled through it, but I didn't have to go away from it very much. That's not where this ball's strength is going to be. It doesn't flare a ton, is all. So mine's 4 by 5 by 3, which puts it right above my ring finger. The mass bias right in my thumb. So a little bit stronger than an average drilling for me, pin position wise. And it rolls and continues well. I think it has a chance, depending on what version we actually see when they run the lanes tomorrow. But it doesn't take a lot to change much when you have a shortish pattern and the gutter hooks. But if you use clean balls, it'll go in. So I don't know. It's going to be in play with three squads, and some of the field using urethane and some not. You're going to see a little bit of everything. So.
What issue, if any, do you see from a slightly speed dominant left-hander going from 16 to 15 since you both switched? I didn't really see almost any difference with speed control, to be honest. For me, it was just that I was able to catch it a little more rev rate and a little more consistent, I would say. Like I can get my hand in a position, like a stronger position. Like, almost force my hand into that position. Whereas with the 16, it was harder for me to get my hand back underneath that spot. So I think kind of the similar for Chris, really. Like, it's just easier to have that little bit of extra gear rev rate wise.
Yeah, you can get after it a little bit more. It makes it easier to do some of those things. A little bit easier speed wise too. If I really want to get firmer, it's a little easier to get firmer with the.
Yeah, like in my position, I haven't really noticed the speed thing. I could always throw it pretty hard. I just feel like when I get left, I can really get after the ball. Like I can, tell the ball who's boss rather than I can walk the dog rather than the dog walk me, which was a bit with the 16-pounders. Thanks, Glenn. Always appreciate your contributions and your support. Surfboard Shack. Go ahead, Chris.
How did both Chris and Stu learn how to rev it when you were learning the game? And two, how would you teach someone to rev it? Without being flippant, right now, if you were fairly athletic or able, I would teach you to just be two-handed. That's the easiest way to catch rev rate right off the bat. But I've seen several people have success basically kind of doing one-step drills with lighter weight bowling balls and learning how to really flip it into the lane, get the feel for the swing, and slow everything down and do it without your body moving first with those lighter weight balls and then move up as you get the feel for how it works.
Yeah, Bill Hall helped me a lot, and I took 4 balls to the foul line and got down on my knee, and basically just pulled the ball along. They have like a set of like rollers now to basically achieve the same thing as he was doing, just get the feel of the, of that motion. But yeah, I think that with two-handed bowling right now, to become really proficient on the house shot, it seems like it's extremely easy two-handed. Like watching the guys, I think to become a very good bowler overall, I don't think it's necessarily any easier bowling two-handed. I think to a large extent, it might be a little harder because you have a little less natural control. But if you want to be competitive on the house shot, and I like two-handed is a joke easier. Like to get to being a 220 average bowler one-handed takes a long time. It takes like 6 months for half these people bowling two-handed. It's ridiculous.
It's a little wild.
Yeah. I mean, it's just mad how quickly people can get when they don't need to worry about direction.
Yeah, and that's the hardest part, obviously, is with two-handed bowling. Control and accuracy is the bigger of the challenges. Whereas with your thumb in it, obviously it's still part of the equation, but creating power is the bigger step up and the bigger challenge as you're going up through the different stages. And if your goal is tour and you're not at 450 and change, I would probably at least look into it.
Hey, Casey. I haven't necessarily seen that, but you're not the first person who's told me that the Tour Dynamics hooks. That's not the reaction I'm seeing out of it.
Ryan's hooked miles, so that was a little different take than what we've seen. So,
yeah, it's a big first angle and a small second angle. So yeah, it's definitely a unique shape. Exponent versus duo. Oh, I'll get to your question in 1 second, David. Exponent versus duo. Complements or competitors? I don't think they're competitors. I don't think they're even close, really, for me.
The duo is I mean, core-wise, they're somewhat similar. The duo is a little lower RG, but it gets way more forward, way quicker.
It's way less controllable. The exponent's way more of a control ball than the duo is. Like, for me.
Yeah, I just drove my duo down low because it feels like it wants to get started early anyway.
Yeah.
And so I just kind of went with what it seems to do and then use it for weeks like this where I may need to be a little straighter with something when they hook in the front also. So I have a shiny ball that wants to get through, still has plenty of guts in the mid lane, but I'm not having to cross multiple zones. That's not what I use a duo for. Whereas the exponent I can cover, I can do a lot of it, of whatever. I can play straighter if I want. I can hook it a lot if I want. David, when playing a harder medium pattern, 3-1, 40 feet-ish, 30-ish mils, okay, kind of basically a sport pattern, medium length and medium to high volume. Have you had more success playing inside or playing right? If you need to play in, really big ASIM or clean, strong sim like a Zen?
I mean, everybody who watches this show knows exactly the first two words I'm going to say.
It
depends.
Depends.
It really does. Because when you're bowling on these sort of like 3-1, 2-1, 39 to like 43, the main determinator of where you're going to bowl is going to be the track and how beat in it is. In my mind anyway. I mean, like about how much that's going to help or hinder. So if the track is really, dominant, there's a lot of friction in that area around, 8 to 13, then you're probably going to play left because you're going to use that to make that 3-1 pattern feel a little higher. If the track isn't really burnt in or you're bowling on a newer lane surface, then I'm pretty sure you're going to play further to the right.
Yeah. You're left-handed. You have a cleaner surface on that side. You'll play between first and second arrow most likely.
Yeah, this guy's right-handed though, right?
Yeah, I understand. I'm just saying.
No, just checking. That was all before we continued. Most times if I'm bowling on 40 feet, unless there is an absolute shit ton of oil, I'm going to be using something like a phase 2, something a little more predictable. I
Medium
tend to,
softball, symmetrical low RG. Yeah.
and then from there, like you can, if you're feeling like that's not really going to pick up enough, or you feel like it's going too much behind the head pin, then I'm going to change to something like, talking about your big ASIMs, like a reality or something. It also depends on how much speed you have. If you're a little speed dominant, like Chris can be on those patterns, he can take something like a gem, really tumble it around 12 to 7, that type of motion.
On a fresh, clean surface, 7, 8, but most of the time, there's not very many of those left. So most of the time, it ends up being in the track. Keep it in front of you.
I'm probably, in general, going to play more angle than Chris is, just because I think that our eyes kind of prefer that. Especially on sort of like these sort of not really 100% defined patterns. It's kind of ironic, really. When we play on stuff that's way more defined, house shot, challenge pattern, those like sort of like 6-1 and above, I go way straighter than Chris does, like just as a general rule.
Yeah.
And when we bowl on flatter stuff, I tend to use my hand and angle to create more hold, whereas Chris is able to really tumble it in the front part of the lane and keep it in front of him. And it's just what your eye likes to see.
Yeah. Well, so you're great at creating angle and creating shape. And when it's 6-1, that combined with what you're really great at turns it into too much, turns into 8 to 10 to 1, and then you have wet dry.
Yeah, I also really like not having to move when we're bowling on those really easy patterns.
Yeah.
And your ball, I feel like my ball strikes a lot when I've got that. I can just throw it basically at the 1-3. Mm-hmm. Whereas I feel like you tend to catch a few more flat 10s doing that. But once you move in a little bit, your forward roll kind of controls the dry nicely when there's enough oil to get it through. And So
get the other side of it.
I understand that got a little bit off your question, David, but like it really depends on which lane surface you're bowling on, like what you like to see.
You like to roll it. If you like to roll it, you're going to go with more Zens. If you get around it more, those bigger ASIMs can be in play.
Mm-hmm.
You're trying to get the ball basically through the first 15 to 20 feet, on a line, very clean, and then get it to pick up in the mid lane and in the Baker box and all those, the other things. So how strong does it need to be to pick up in that spot? Yeah. The 30 mils these days means that there's a lot of oil between 12 and 30 feet. So.
Yes.
I hope that helped. If not, feel free to follow up and we'll do our best to add.
But thanks for the super chat. Graham. So much over under with asymmetrical bowling balls to the point where I just don't throw them. I can't figure out what's causing it, but it seems to get the same reaction every shot.
They can't seem to get the same reaction every shot.
I was about to say, you either have over or under.
Yeah.
If you do get the same reaction. Some of that can be layout wise, like if your your layout isn't necessarily what you think it is based on what your axis point actually is. With asymmetricals, not having the right axis point mapped can be way more of a problem than on a symmetrical ball, just because the weight block's way more dominant in a asymmetrical ball. Secondly, for me anyway, I feel like with the asymmetrical balls, if you have a little too much surface on them, you can get yourself into a situation where if you kind of get them too much into the lane, you kind of create that, where it burns up, and that can create a lot of that under over that you're talking about. Whereas a shot you expect to hook doesn't hook because it burns up in the front and then catches the oil down lane. And then, of course, you make sure you get it right. And then the next one, you get it super right early and the ball like hits the friction, then it's gone. I see that a lot with asymmetricals. What about you, Chris, with that?
Yeah, I mean, and where is the mass bias? Is it down by your thumb, which will make that pretty quick, or is it kicked out in a strong spot or way out towards your axis? Knowing where some of that is. I struggled with asymmetrics for a long time, so I feel your pain there. I didn't have very many asymmetrics except for bigger, slower covers to go along with that. Alex Hoskins opened my eyes up to a couple of different things. For me, keeping mass biases around the thumb, keeping CGs, around the midline or even a little bit on the negative side seemed to help me use those a little more often for a variety of reasons that are too complicated for me to explain right now. But yeah, and it's okay if you just don't love asymmetric balls. There are plenty of symmetric balls to gear towards and use that way. And so, maybe just skew away from them and go to more of the phase 2 and those low RG symmetrical cores, and then blend in a core like the Exponent, and then blend in cores like from the Hustle line, and you can have a pretty big difference adding in those. And then you add in Revenant, some higher RG balls that flare, and you can still get plenty of differences without using a lot of asymmetry.
Yeah, definitely. And if you want something super strong, I mean, the Summit is pretty much as strong as almost as strong as almost any asymmetrical ball. Super cover strong, that ball.
Mm-hmm.
And it's got the golf ball cover, so it carries better.
There you go.
The golf ball inner core, the outside of the core looks like a golf ball, and it gets more hits. So, have an itch to buy a new ball. What new release is good to complement a hype solid and a fate on a dryish typical house shot? Two-handed lefty, medium revs, medium speed. I mean, our first question is always going to be, do you find the hype solid to be the strongest ball you need? So, or is your fate stronger? Like, if you answer those two questions in the chat, and we'll come back to this question, because it's more about what you need to complement those two. Because for me, as a one-handed righty, which is the opposite of you, the fate would be stronger than the hype solid, and the hype solid and the fate would never be strong enough for me. Even on like a kind of a drier house shot. So is the hype solid your strongest ball? And do you often need something, or do you ever need something stronger than that? And then we can kind of add.
Yeah.
So just hit us back, Dubby Bear, and we'll get back to you.
What would be the best bowling ball you like to choose? Summit, Clone, any other choice? Exponent's been, and Zen Gold have been really good for me so far this summer. The Zen Gold with a little bit of surface on it, and the Exponent as a ball down from that has gone as a pretty good combo for me. The Clone I have not gotten to throw very much yet. It doesn't look like it'll get a lot of play this week necessarily either. The dynamics has been good, and then obviously balls that we've had in the past that are still very good, Gem and Reality and those kind of balls at the top. So,
breaking news. Dun, dun, dun. Okay. I will read it because it's fun. USBC Open Championships. USBC will be adding additional prize money to the classified division of the 2023 Open Championships and year-long brackets. The additional funds will be used to create an alternate prize fund, removing a high-scoring competitor who, while eligible under the tournament rules, has abilities higher than the classified division. The results will simply be increased prize earnings for classified bowlers paid by USBC, with this additional bowler removed from alternate prize lists and year-long brackets. No bowler will receive less money than the original list. there is no disqualification, and the individual removed from alternate list will still receive their prize money. USBC will post alternate prize money later this week. Prize checks will still be on time, although some classified bowlers may receive supplemental checks for year-long brackets. The situation came to light as year-long brackets results showed a participant in the classified division with a high number of bracket entries and prize winnings. After review, this individual entered the classified division based on the championship average that was several years old, with current league averages showing a much higher ability. The individual did not break any rules or misrepresent their entry average. Therefore, the USBC has no basis to change the official results. USBC will address this issue in Open Championships rules moving forward. Man, they are paying out some money for fucking it up, aren't they? God damn.
Well, he made a lot of money too. So,
yeah. But I'm just saying, well, if you take his brackets out, he was half the brackets. So it's not like there aren't that many extra people. Like if you take out all of his entries, it'll greatly reduce the amount of brackets that there were total. So, but it's more a case of, I mean, it's cool that they're doing the right thing. It's just that this is the third time in 2.5 months that they've just dumped 60 grand at the problem and moved on. Yeah. I mean,
there's been worse reactions. So
no, 100%. I'm just saying that we've had the Queens, we've had the next stop on the women's tour, and now we've had this.
True.
I guess they're like Chelsea FC. They've got the money tree at the end of the garden.
They got enough, I guess.
So anyway, fun times. I wonder if that's going to be part of a bonus structure. Anti-reality. I hope that's not anti 900 global reality. I might not even want to answer that question. I am bowling PBA Sport League using the national singles and doubles pattern. How would you approach this?
350 RPM, 16.5 righty. I assume you mean up on the board, which puts you in the 19-mile-an-hour range. A lot of quick balls there other than your phase two. Yeah, phase 2, phase 5.
I mean, for me, you're going to have to use... hard,
but the general pattern, the general strategy that had some success was using urethane for a game, maybe 2, and then switching to for me, I switched to an X2 the last 3 games and went around them, and I felt like they were pretty playable.
I mean, I'm not messing with you right now. Out of the balls you've got there, the only one of those that, I mean, I don't really know that much about the Zing Solid. But out of the other balls that you've got there, the only one that I'd contemplate using on that pattern is the plastic. I thought they were impossible with reactive balls. And if you've got a quick reactive ball, they're definitely impossible. So, I mean, I guess
carry down and get some transition before the other balls came into play.
Like for me, like the doubles was all about getting the pattern stretch. So if you're bowling 4 games and you're not changing lanes, using the first game with your plastic and trying to hit the pocket around second arrow, I could see you could set them up pretty nice to go to like phase 2, phase 5 X2, like for the rest of it, like, and chase it left and just go around it.
You're switching every game. Yeesh.
But if you have to change every game, yeah,
they were hard, no doubt. Urethane, something that's smooth, you know. I thought 2-inch pin would be more in play than it was. It was not great.
Well, I think the problem is the 2-inch pin hooks early and then doesn't hook, and there was no oil in the front because there was only 22 mils of oil on the line. Like that's not very much oil.
True that.
Got to really quickly clarify this. Oh no, wrong person. I thought based on the highest average from the past 3 years, or no, the rules have always been, since they changed to the lower averages, it's your USBC 27 games. This guy was just a unique case because he hadn't bowled nationals for a few years. Like, all kidding apart, and me giving USBC a hard time for this was the only solution, really, because the people in the classified division did nothing wrong, and it's a fair expectation. You're not going to be you bowling against a 220 average bowler. And on the other side of it, the guy who entered did nothing wrong either, because
he hasn't even bowled. He hadn't bowled since they changed to this rule, so it wasn't like he did it on purpose ahead of time.
No,
he just hadn't bowled in a while.
And I don't know, but I've been there in these situations, and I could fully imagine that he would have said my average is 220, and they'd have said that doesn't matter. You bowl off the USBC Open Championship average.
Mm-hmm.
So I could fully imagine that he was told that that was the division he was in, because that's the division he's in. So yeah, like I say, it's cool that they're eating the issue, so to speak, because I think that's the right thing to do. It's just the third time in very short period of time they've had to eat a multiple tens of thousands of dollar loss.
Yeah. Well, kudos to do it to biting the bullet instead of making everybody else pay for it. So,
Greg Thompson, might end up paying for it.
Well, if you were in the classified brackets.
Oh no, I just meant as members.
Well, yeah,
because that's money they don't have.
Greg Thompson, do you guys ever use 6-inch pins to paps every time I go more than 5.5? It clips the holes. This is very much a you question because you also track very high.
If I do use a 6-inch pin, it's combined with a shorter buffer.
So a really tall pin.
Yeah.
To help pull it off.
So I would do like a 6-inch pin and maybe a 2-inch buffer. So it kind of makes it flare a little more. So it kind of complements the two. But yes, I have kind of the issue if I go especially if I go past 6, it's a disaster. So I guess Dubby has got back to us. So I need to
get.
He said the hype is usually stronger than his fate. Okay. And is the hype usually strong enough? Because I mean, if you're looking for something weaker, then for me, the ball would be the hustle rip, the hustle RIP. That would be the ball that I like right now. That's on the weaker side. Mm-hmm. Oh, look, Chris has friends. No. Oh, I thought you were moving around because a friend was coming to join you.
Nope.
You just got uncomfortable.
It won't come out there. Yeah, just tired of sitting that way.
Yeah, hype saw. Yeah, so in that case, then I'd be looking at one of the hustles. I like the rip. I think that the solid covers are like it makes more sense. But yeah.
Yeah. One of the guys that does ball reviews also said that he thought the M&M was more smoother, was more controllable than the rip was. The rip was more angular.
Okay.
I'm
not saying he's wrong because I can't dispute it. I haven't
thrown an M&M. I think actually Pete did throw the clone a little bit, but he actually threw the exponent way more, and they look somewhat close enough. But yeah, he hit it. He had them both going, but he had the clone wasn't shiny anymore, so it was tougher to tell.
I have to agree. Hustle RIP would be an awesome step down. If he needs a step up, there's a million to choose from. Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah, there's all of them. Somebody asked about what works on TV Wolfe pattern. Well, I mean, urethane is a go-to. Obviously, you've already addressed that. What reactive balls? The Tour Dynamics would be our latest option, I think, on that. That's a smoother, small core ball that lets you play a little closer to it. It's probably the easiest choice right at the moment.
It really depends on which version of Wolfe, because for me, I've actually struggled on Wolfe when I've got too close to the gutter, like, through the front, because I feel like that pattern gets a little cliffy, and sometimes it's actually better. That's one of the few that I've had more success with reactive than urethane on the fresh, because I've just, really opened up my angle a little bit. It Wolfe reminds me of the old what was Cheetah Pattern E originally?
Yeah.
Wolfe in a couple of places I've played really reminds me more of that, where people would take like big balls and just throw them dead at the dead at the gutter, and like really get that forward roll going. But I think for most normal human beings who bowl, exactly what Chris is talking about is the way forward for most normal. But for the pros, I think a lot of them like really tumbling the balls at that one. This reminds me of for Greg. I don't like 6-inch pins on symmetrical balls. Only asymmetrical balls.
Okay. So they flare enough to get it off of it.
Oh, sorry. How is this even question? It's got to be sanded black or purple. McNeil. I mean, you'd be surprised. Like in my experience on Wolfe, there's been way less urethane used. Like we use way less urethane on the short patterns than we do on the medium and longer ones. The pros are weird.
Yeah.
But the whole point of that was why they dropped the averages for each division.
Yeah.
For using the sport averages. So
I've seen some of those old team challenge ones. Those are fun. Some of those are a good time.
They weren't particularly it wasn't really particularly great shot making on a lot of those TV shows.
Well, they were about as much fun to watch as some of the first couple of years of the women's tour, when they decided to make them impossible every week and then go, hey, here's a TV show, throw one shot every 10 minutes and good luck.
And you've never been on TV before, and good luck.
Well, how come you guys can average 220? In what world were we ever going to? So,
yeah, I mean, I watched some of the balls. They're like they weren't necessarily. I wonder if some of the current lane guys did the lanes back then, because there was definitely a little bit of hook.
That's what 22 mils looks like. Let's go back to that.
Well, I mean,
I watched Paul Fleming miss the hit pin left twice in the same frame on one of those. A guy who does not struggle necessarily to make shots per se. Yeah, there were some. I bowled with Newman when he got 3 off the left once on a show.
He's pretty good.
Yeah, he was all right. You could argue how much he was trying at the time, I guess, but as it turns out,
yeah, it's yeah.
But yeah, there's some really cool teams. For those of you that have not seen Team USA head coach Brian O'Keefe bowl, there's some good footage there. My man could play. He was good.
What was the other thing I was meant to tell you? So anyway, the women's show is on Tuesday night. It's on CBS. So the last block starts at 5:00. So in about an hour, an hour and a half. So just a shout out. Fingers crossed. We should see some good scores on the final. They might actually be able to relax and enjoy the final and showcase the women a little bit better than it's been the last couple of shows, where the scores haven't been very good. It's been the race to 180.
Yeah.
It doesn't seem like it's going to be that. Shout out to the owners up there, Rich, Amy, and Zach. Thanks for I bowl nationals with those guys, so it's kind of cool to see that to see them doing this, hosting the tournament. I know they've been looking forward to it for a long time, so fun time. Hopefully they get an exciting TV show. I'm calling it now, but I don't I don't necessarily think that there is no chance of a 300. I'm calling it. I think we might see a 300 on the TV show. They've had plenty of 300s. And ironically, the pattern they're bowling on now is actually the highest ratio of all of them, and it's the lowest scoring. So
there's that. There's that.
This might have been asked already, but what is Stu's benchmark ball for house shots? I tried to style myself after you. God bless you. I'm currently using IQ Ruby myself with good success. For me, I don't really like the lower diff balls on the house shots. I've done it and used like a Hustle Inc. I don't have any trouble with getting the ball through the front part of the lane, so I don't really have that much need for the low diff balls, and they end up just making the lanes more wet dry for me. But in general, I don't really have benchmark balls, to be honest. If we're bowling in a place that's hooks a little more, probably like Absolute is always a good starting ball for me. I like realities, shiny realities on house shots. I kind of like asymmetrical balls overall. I used Chris's favorite, the Exponent, this weekend. Zens have looked okay as well for me on the house shot. Like generally stuff that's not particularly quick response. Like I could make myself look real dumb if I used a Revenant or something like that. Because it's just going to be so angular off the dry and so nothing off the oil. But just like I say, in general, that would be the ones. Adam, what's going on, my man? I nearly bowled 300 at Bowl America and still in Virginia throwing the dark code.
Yeah.
Well, nearly. I don't want nearlies, Adam. I want 3 bills, baby.
Adam challenged me to a match in between the two rounds between match play on the last day.
Little tough, that one.
Yeah, I was a couple hours to try and get some food and get out of there. But
he was just scary, Adam. Don't listen to him.
I was afraid. Well, he would have shot 300 and beat me. So,
Well, just a sec. It's coming through. Get the front 9.
There you go. There we go. Well, it's about time for us to wrap this one up. When in Rome, I'm going to go play some pickleball because when in
That's
Rome.
what old people do.
That's be nice. And yes, we didn't actually go through the 116, so I'll go through it for you real quick. This is how you do it. You missed left the first shot in 4-pin. You go, no big deal. They're pretty easy. Probably lucky to hit 4-pin. Then you throw a good one for the 3-6-10. You've already missed every spare all week long, so you're not throwing it straight on, in a telecast. So I hook at it. Hooks way more down lane. Take the 3-6 off. Not ideal. Okay. You know what? I'm going to go ahead and play him straighter now. I'm going to use the reality. Kind of go with the Ryan. We're going with Boy Wonder's theory on this stuff. Throw it harder. Pocket 7-10. Okay. All right. Well, let's do it on the other lane. Actually, we'll just go back to the same ball. Move 3 left. 3-6-10. This hook at it again. Add 3 more. Nope. Still chopped it. Cool. All right. Back there, we're going to move back left and go through them. Get this one go. It goes through them. 2-8-10. Throw it left-handed. Get none. All right. Back to the right lane. 3 more. 3-6-7-10. Also got the 3-6 again. I cannot move far enough left on this lane, evidently, to not hit the middle of the 3-pin. I go back to the left lane. I strike in the 7th. I have 60 in the 6th now with a strike in the 7th. Now Tom's ball is starting to do the same thing mine has. He's 2-4-6-10 and 3-6-9-10. Made both of them. And I still actually have a chance if I strike out. I summon all my power. I make a move. 100% committed. Going to force it in there. 3-6-10. Again, on the right lane. So this time I've already missed it. So I went in and threw a spare ball at it and made it. So how do you shoot 116? Well, you make the 3-6-10 at least once. I go to the left lane. I finally struck. At least I got something I know what's going to do. Nope. Big 4. Got a couple of pins. At that point, I'd passed Tom Doherty. I did do a little small celebration as I passed the lowest score of all time. And for the 10th frame, I left the 610. I made it. And then I tried to throw one two-handed for a gutter ball. And that's how you shoot 116. You want to know? Now you know.
Oh dear. Hey Richard, just send me just send the Beef and Barnzy Facebook the question and I'll answer it offline. We're gonna wrap up right now. Sorry, I checked through on the YouTube side as well, and nothing showed up. So sorry about that. Like I say, just hit us up and I'll get back to you.
All right, Nico. Got you. All right. Okay. Yeah, we'll take care of you, Richard. And,
yeah, I'm sorry. Like I say, it hasn't turned up at all on our side. So please don't blame us. But like I say, send me a message or you can email me at beefandbarnzy@gmail.com and I'll get back to you. No problem.
All right, guys. I appreciate it. We'll see how, let's see, Thursday, I bowl late. So there's a possibility we can do one on Thursday, depending on how schedules all fall together. So,
all right. Thanks for watching.
Thanks for watching, guys. Until next time, please support the sponsors that support us. Storm, Rotogrip, Niner Global, Coolwick, Bowler Smart, Fire Lake Bowling Center, Lightning Strikes, and Platinum Forward. Until next time, stay safe, stay healthy. God bless.
See you later.